Welcome back, everyone. So we are back for part two with Christina Cadeau, who was speaking about her experience as a teacher in New York City. And in the first part, we really focused about her experience as a teacher and some of the challenges that she experienced. And in this segment, we are going to focus more on her personal journey of becoming a teacher. So welcome back, Christina.
Thank you.
So we talked about your experience as a teacher, and I want to take it back a little bit to your journey of becoming a teacher. Did you know, or have you always desired to become a teacher?
Yes.
Yeah.
Teaching, really, I feel like it's my calling. I couldn't think of anything else that I would be doing. Since I was a kid, I always played the teaching role.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about teaching attracted you to that career path? Did you have teachers around you? What about teaching seemed appealing to you?
I'm glad that you asked that. I think as a kid growing up in Haiti, I think it was that discipline that teachers had, able to control. I think that's really what it was, able to have control a class, and I think what drew me into teaching, I think it was that maybe thinking back, the teachers that I had, Madame Martine, in her way, of just being able to manage a classroom, I think really that's what drew me into teaching.
Okay.
And just seeing also the impact she had on me, which was not truly a good impact, but also the impact that a teacher can have on a student. And I think for me, I always wanted to have a good impact on my students.
So would you say that negative experience with that teacher then kind of made you want to have the opposite effect on
Yes,
students?
because I know how I felt in her classroom.
Okay.
I didn't feel seen, I didn't feel heard. I definitely felt some sense of discrimination. And I think all of that led to me feeling I want to be the opposite of that.
Okay.
I don't ever want a student to feel the way I felt.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So what did that journey look like? So, first, at what age did you desire to become a teacher? And then from there, what did your journey look like?
So I would say probably 9 years old. That's when I would play with my Barbies and I would line them up.
Okay.
And I would just teach them.
Okay.
And so I think that's where really it started.
Wow.
And growing up, there's playing the teaching role when you're just playing different roles, with friends. I played the teaching role, and then coming to America and then having very good positive influence, whether it was Miss Fustin, the principal of our school, or Mr. Amanord, having those very good influences, and Mr. Innocent even.
Yeah.
Miss Gill, I don't know if you remember her.
Yeah. She was our assistant.
No, but not Miss Gill. Miss Gill, yeah, I think she was Miss Gill. She was Spanish. She used to teach,
okay. But then she became the assistant
I
principal.
think so. It was something like that, yes.
Okay.
But having these influences, these positive influences, really pushed me. But I would really say when I got into college, meeting Mr. Hobson, where it was the challenge, how he challenged me, where it was I think putting that confidence in me, I think it was then where I was I think that maybe that's something truly I can do, I can pursue. Yeah.
Okay. So you desired to become a teacher at about 8 or 9 years old, but it was really confirmed in college.
It was really it was not confirmed in college for me. I think it was confirmed that confidence I can do it.
Okay.
But it was for me, I would say, I think when I started going abroad, where it was that's something that you can do. You know what I mean? You can definitely do it. It's manageable, right? It's doable.
Okay.
You can do it. Yeah.
Okay. So then let's speak about we have someone who comes to you and they're like, hey, I would like to be a teacher. what should I major in? Does it matter what you major in college? First of all, what did you major in college?
So I majored in English literacy.
Okay.
Literature really. But yeah, I knew in undergrad I wanted to go in, like, you know, I didn't have a purpose going into college.
Okay.
I don't think I ever had those conversations of you going to college, this is what you need to be, you know, you want to be a teacher, how are you going to be a teacher? Those were not conversations that I ever had. It was like you're done with high school, you go to college.
Okay.
You know, and that's what it was. So I went to college, spoke to the advisor, and I said, yeah, I want to be a teacher. And she's like, well, honey, you know, you're gonna have to keep a 3.0 GPA. And honestly, mentally, I did not understand, because I was like, whoa, a 3.0 GPA, that sounds like a lot of work. Like, you know, it's too much.
Yeah.
And I settled for English, like, you know, because with English, she was like, you cannot go under like a 2.5.
So she recommended English.
She recommended something where it's like, why don't you do something that is much simpler, that won't ask so much? She lied, because English literature was nothing but reading, and I'm like, I don't like reading so much, but I would say that's where I truly found the love of reading, and I appreciated books and reading
English,
there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just like, you know, college for me was taking the easy way out. Like, you know, English was taking the easy way out. It was like, yeah, that's something that I can manage, that's something that I can do, and that's what I pursued. But then it's like, in my mind, I'm like, okay, fine, I'll take English, and then I can become an English teacher. But you still have to put in the time, like, you know, you still have to go to become a teacher. You have to take the credentials. And so for someone who tells me, like, you know, they want to become a teacher, you know, your undergrad, I mean, like, people change careers any day, you know, at different times in life. Your undergrad, if you're very sure that's what you want to do, then I would definitely say go for teaching, you know, whether it's special ed, education, you know, early childhood. There's different things that you can do in the education system.
So then are those, you mentioned special education, early childhood, so are those I guess you would say the traditional college majors if you aspire to be a teacher? Or not necessarily?
Not necessarily. No, there's so many. The thing with education, which I love, like, it's so broad. Like, you know, there's so many things that you can do. You don't have to be in the classroom, you know, to be in education, or to even work one-on-one with two students. You know, there's different things that you could do. You can be, like, you know, a reading specialist. You know, you can be a pathologist. You know, there's so many aspects in the building that you're still working with one-on-one children.
With children. Okay. I actually like that you mentioned that there are different ways in which, if you desire to work with children, that you can accomplish that without being directly in the classroom. Because I think sometimes some people just like, yeah, I would love to help, you know, our children. I would like to have an impact in their future. But I myself, I think in some aspect, I knew that, you know, obviously we had guidance counselors, but you just mentioned like a pathologist, and I think earlier on you had mentioned like there's paraprofessionals and stuff like that. Okay, so besides those careers that you just mentioned, like you mentioned a pathologist, what are different careers in which someone like can have that they can still have direct contact with children, they can still have an impact, but not necessarily be in the classroom and be a teacher?
I mean, you have guidance counselors, you have school counselors, you know, you have the social worker, you know, those are all things where you really have an impact on the child, whether it's like, you know, and it's sometimes outside of the classroom, it's not necessarily in the classroom, you know. So when you think, for example, of a school counselor, you know, she's helping you with your high school transcripts, or your high school
your college applications, you mean?
Application, right? Helping you with high school application, where, you know, now you have to get a one-on-one with the student, where you also kind of guide the student, because they don't understand, you know, the unknown they're about to face when they go into high school. It's a different ball game. So those are all ways that you can help, you know, the student outside, you know, of the classroom. If you don't see yourself in the classroom, you know, because some people, they see themselves in the classroom, they're very happy and they're satisfied with that. that, and some people, they get in the classroom, they're like, yeah, that's not for me, but I still want to make that impact on students. And so how can you do it? There's different ways to do it.
Okay.
And even admin, for example, like, you know, you can even go into admin, you know. And sometimes I would say, sometimes you have a better impact on the student when you're not in the classroom, because so often as teachers, we're focusing so much on the curriculum, you know, where we know that, all right, by certain dates, this has to be done. So sometimes, you know, we don't have all the luxury, all the time to really put in that one-on-one with that student.
With the student, okay. Okay, so that's good to know. And I think, like, you know, my viewers, it would be beneficial for them to understand, like, there are many ways to have impact on, like, you know, students, and even work in a school building without being like a teacher or directly in a classroom. That's good to know. And the other, I think, takeaway that I got from your you know, statement earlier on is that there's no specific major required to go into teaching. You pretty much can major in anything. Is that correct?
Yes, and I'm speaking from my experience. I majored in English, you know, and I was able to get my master's in special education. You know, and there was no prerequisites for that. You know, but then I went with also a program, you know, which is the Teaching Fellows. So anyone out here, definitely look into Teaching Fellows. It's one of those programs, like, you know, it's definitely rigorous, definitely tough, but I would say if you're kind of lost, especially if you're coming from one career and you're changing careers, it definitely gives you, like, you know, that hand holding, you know.
Teaching Fellows.
Yes, Teaching Fellows, you know. And it's also, like, you know, the DOE putting that investment, because it's very hard to get into the DOE, you know. So you definitely get into the DOE, you know, and once you're there, you're truly invested.
And when you say the DOE, for those who don't know,
is the Department of Education.
Education. Okay, so I want to know a little bit more about the Teaching Fellows program. So what are the requirements for it? What is the purpose of the program? Like, what are they seeking to accomplish through the
really, it's a training program, training you to become a teacher. So you do have, like, you know, summer classes, and the beauty about it as well is you get to pay for your masters. Like, you know, half of it, they pay for the masters, half of your masters, and then, like, you know, you pay as well, you know, for your masters. But it's one of
which is really good.
Which is very great, because the beauty about it is you get, like, you know, you leave, you get your masters, like, you know, debt free in a sense, like, you know, there's no loans that you're taking, you know, and the beauty about it, like, you know, you have teachers who understand, you know, that it is not easy, you know, especially that you're changing careers. I mean, I've had many people, like, you know, I've had lawyers, this policemen, you know, changing careers and becoming teachers, you know, and so it's really an amazing program. And you find also teachers who also been in the Teaching Fellows, so they understand what you're going through
as well.
Okay,
so you went to college. After college, what did you do?
So after college, I worked at NYU for a year as a secretary. and I was very fortunate and very blessed enough to meet someone who said, you know what, since you're not going to Thailand, because what we agreed on was, like, you know, until you graduate college, you can work here, right? That was the agreement that we had. Then graduate at NYU. So then graduate college, very fortunate, where she's like, all right, fine. Is that your plan to leave in October to go to Thailand, like, you know, wherever it is, to go abroad? Then we'll keep you until October. But unfortunately, God had, like, you know, different plans. And so I ended up going to Thailand, like, you know, a year later. But that time, like, you know, I was fortunate that she hired me full time then. So it gave me time to save up, you know, and just prepare, you know, for my trip. So to go to Thailand.
So you mentioned that you were preparing to go to Thailand. So let's talk about Thailand, because I think for me, that's like my favorite part of your journey, because you were in Thailand for 2 years, right? What were you doing in Thailand? Let's talk about, like, that experience.
I was teaching in Thailand. I was teaching, I was getting to know myself. I was exploring.
Yeah.
But purpose truly was like, going to teach.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So you were teaching there for 2 years,
Teaching
right?
there for 2 years.
So
Yeah.
what were the grade levels?
What was I? It was different grade levels. I was teaching like tutoring 101, whether it was adults. I was also doing children, like 6th, 7th grade. I also was doing high school, so it was like a variety of grades that we did. Yeah.
Okay. And what led you to want to go to China? I mean, not China, to Thailand. Like what? Why?
It wasn't God.
Yeah.
It was God. I'll tell you that
Okay.
much. So the story behind it is I never wanted to go to Asia.
Okay.
The continent of Asia was never a thought. I'm like, no, right? I never heard of Thailand before. I wanted to go to Spain, but unfortunately, procrastination. I'm a very big procrastinator, so I was like, yeah, we're not going to do I'll wait for Spain, and it never happened. And it just happened that one day I went into my spam and mailbox, and I see you still have time, program has been extended, so you have 2 more days, and I was like, all right, maybe that's God telling me something. So I got on it real quick, and it was one of those things where it's like, well, if I get accepted, I get accepted. We'll see, right? And I did, and then within 2-3 days I get accepted. Like, congratulations, you're into the program and stuff like that.
And sorry to interrupt you, but for those who are interested, what was the program that you did that allowed you to go to Thailand?
So it was CIEE,
okay,
which I loved. For me as a person, I like hand holding at the beginning. I like to understand what I'm getting myself into.
Yeah.
And so I would advise anyone who is thinking of teaching abroad to go with a program, because I think for me, CIEE, being that I did not speak the language, I did not know what I was going to get myself into. And though I've had that experience coming to America, but now I'm going somewhere else. It's different.
Thailand is completely different.
Completely different. It's not westernized at all. Thailand, it was definitely an interesting journey there. Yeah.
So let's talk about in what ways, while you were in Thailand, I mean, you were there for teaching, but for the individual who's just like, I don't think I could just up and go and live in a different country by myself for 2 years nonetheless. Let's talk about the growth in that journey, right? Because I remember, seeing you go through that journey, and I just love I felt like you came back a completely different person. So let's talk about that journey. What did that journey do for you in terms of your self-development, or even solidifying your love for teaching?
Yes, I mean, the things that we put so much emphasis on in America, the things that we value in America, going to Thailand is like simplicity. Just living your true self, and also you go into a place where people don't care about these things,
like what?
As far as the material things, you know what I mean? There was more. What else can you offer? What else that's deeper there that you can offer? Whether it's what are you coming to teach me? But with Thailand, I think, and I would advise anyone, especially as women, to please travel alone.
Yeah.
I'm very big on that. Travel alone. And when I say travel alone, it's a different experience when you're traveling, in Europe, in America. It's very different. Go to, go to China, go to Thailand, go to Vietnam. Go to a different culture where now you have to actually humble yourself and really dive into their culture. You know what I mean? Because they're not going to bend with you. I remember when I first started traveling, there was some girl in my cohort, and she said, when you travel alone, you're never alone.
Yeah.
You think you're alone, but you're never alone. Because you always meet people, on your journey. And it's amazing how I've met incredible people on my journey, just for a day, for 2 days, and to this day, we're still in touch with them.
So I think you're hinting to it, but you're not saying directly, because let's list some of the countries you went to while you were in Thailand, right? Because you were in Thailand for 2 years, but in that 2-year span, you really had the opportunity to travel a lot. I felt like throughout 4 continents at least, right? So let's talk about some of the countries. You don't have to give me details, but name some of the countries you got a chance to go to while you were having this teaching experience in Thailand. Because you opened up yourself to this new opportunity, right? where you didn't know anyone, you didn't speak the language, weren't familiar with the culture, but because you were open-minded to having that experience, you were able to experience so much more. So what were some of the countries that you got a chance to travel to?
Oh my goodness, I had Morocco, Egypt, Spain, France, Vietnam, Japan, China, Korea. I definitely like Cambodia. I've definitely been to a few places.
Yeah.
And there was no destination. It was just you're there, might as well take advantage of it, right? And because I'm so drawn and I love culture, it was just one of those things where it's like, all right, where can my money take me now?
You were open-minded.
I was open-minded, and also for me, which I would not advise anyone to do, especially in the world that we live in now. I went into these countries not doing any research at all. It was one of those things where I'm like, okay, fine, I need to get to Spain. How we get there to Spain? Oh, let's stop in Jordan, and then it's like my brother is like, there's a war happening out there, right? You're a black woman traveling there, right? You have to be very reserved and stuff like that. And I'm like, I'll be fine. And I go and I have a great time, right?
But disclaimer, that is not what we're advising.
Right, definitely not. But what I am saying is you do want to go with an open mind.
Yes.
Do not go stuck in your ways that this is how it's going to be. No, when you're traveling, just have an open mind. And I think just be open to meeting different people. Be vigilant, but also just be open to meeting different people. Yes.
Yeah, I really, really enjoyed your pictures, like the things you were posting about your journey, because I think we had a conversation when you were getting ready to get to Thailand, because by that point I had just returned back from China through the same program that I did. And it just seeing the growth, right? And I myself, when I get a chance to speak of my journey, also experienced this growth, like this personal development. I think there's something that comes when you open yourself to the unknown, right? Like there's so much growth. I'm so glad you got to share that aspect of your journey. But after 2 years in Thailand, you weren't finished. You ended up...
I ended up going to France.
Yeah. You ended up going to France.
Yes.
And then how long were you there for?
So for France, I was there for a year.
Okay. And what were you doing there?
I was also teaching.
Okay.
I was also teaching there. But this time I was really working with the teachers.
Okay.
So giving them resources on how to actually teach English to students.
Okay.
Yeah.
And did you go through CIEE as well?
No. So for that with France, it's very difficult. So let's kind of backtrack a little bit with CIEE.
Okay.
So anyone who is interested to teaching abroad, and I always say that, especially us teachers, come on, let's go ahead and teach out there even for a year. I always encourage and push teachers to truly have that experience.
And also side note too, countries like Dubai, China, they pay teachers who are certified in America double than what they would pay their own teachers.
And speaking of Dubai, if you're really looking out there, they're even helping you pay for health insurance if you have 2 kids, and they're also helping with your husband. So there are opportunities out there. You just really have to look into them. And if you are really looking for financial stability, definitely.
Because I know a lot of teachers now, like a lot of the complaint is the pay. And you'll be surprised how other countries are willing to pay you just because you are a certified teacher in America.
That's
willing to pay you double.
And especially if you are in New York. New York, that's what they're looking for. New York is one of those states that is very hard to get your credential, but once you do, you're able to teach in all states. Whereas if you are getting your license from Florida, you might have to come to New York and then get a certificate. But if you are a teacher in New York City, just understand how valuable you are as a teacher because New York City
globally.
Globally. Definitely. Because it's one of the toughest states to get it.
Okay. Sorry to interrupt about that. Okay, so then we're backtracking to CIEE and then how you got to France.
Right. So with CIEE, what I would say is I was interested, like I said, I went there really for 1 year and I fell in love with it. And with CIEE, you do have to pay, right, to get into the program because they do a lot of hand holding. They place you different places. Now, for example, I encourage my cousin. to come the second year, where she wanted to go to Europe and all. And I told her, like, girl, no, you need to come to Asia. I will help you, like, you know. And for her, she did not have to go through that program. And so I would advise, and even for me, my second year, I did not go through the program. And so if you are, like, you know, looking to teach abroad, you can go with CIEE, or if not, like, you know, you can just really look different places or go individually.
There's a lot of different programs.
Yes. And even go individually, like, you know, looking for different schools in different
just
countries.
do your research.
Yes, just do your research.
For sure.
And so, like, you know, especially if money, you know, is not so easy for you now, definitely
look into it.
Definitely look into it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then you did a year in France, and you came back to the US. What now?
What now? It was COVID.
Okay.
So it was COVID, and I think through COVID, really, I needed that time because I felt like right from my 3-year journey, coming, like, you know, and living with my parents, Haitian parents on top of that, you know, it was not easy because now you're a new person. You know, you've been under their wings for so long, and then now you go and spread your wings.
You found
independence. You find your independence. You find, like, you know, where it's like, okay, fine, this is where I feel comfortable. I feel good, you know, and now you come home and it's like, well, this, oh, well, that, what are you doing? It's all these thoughts. So I felt like during that time coming back, well, first, before COVID hit, I would say, I was working for an agency, and I was doing paraprofessional, and I was also doing teaching, teacher assistant. And then I tried getting into the DOE, and I was able to work for the DOE one day prior to COVID.
As a what?
As a paraprofessional. It was either as a paraprofessional or it could be a substitute. But my first gig really with the DOE was teaching assistant. So
let me ask you quickly, what is the difference between a paraprofessional, a substitute teacher, and a teacher?
So it's all teaching, right? You're all teaching. But then, like, when you say, like, you know, you're a classroom teacher, then it's like you have a classroom that you're assigned to, right? And then you're teaching. Like, for me, I would say I'm a classroom teacher, right? Because I have that one class that I focus on, which is my 8th grade, right? I have their roster. I make sure, like, you know, I'm calling their parents. So I'm focusing on that class specifically. Now, when you're a paraprofessional, most likely you're working with one student. So you have one student probably has special needs. So then you're working very close to the teacher, but you only have one student that you're working with. Right? Whereas when you're a substitute teacher, then you're subbing for that teacher, like, you know, for that classroom teacher.
Filling in for a day, a week.
Exactly, yes. And then you also have, like, sometimes long-term substitute teachers, because you do have teachers who are credentials, who have their credential, and they were like, yeah, I no longer want to teach anymore or have a classroom. I'll do it as a substitute teacher. And then they have their business on the side. I remember in high school, we did have, like, you know, a teacher who was like that. She came in as a substitute teacher, but then she was like, yeah, I kind of like the school and I like the group of students. Then because she had her credential, she was offered a full-time job, you know. And I've known many other substitute teachers, you know, who are not able to get jobs, you know, or who does not have the right network or resources on how to get a job, you know, or getting an interview with a principal, because it does take a lot of work to actually find a school, and especially a culture where you find that you feel comfortable in. And I've met, like, you know, teachers who went in as substitute teachers and were able to get hired. Full-time.
Okay. So then you worked for the DOE as, like, a substitute teacher, and that was for, like
for a day.
And then COVID
hit. And then COVID hit. It was like, you know, let me just hibernate here. Like, you know, it just happened.
Take some time off.
Exactly. And then I started meditating. I think, like, you know, I started journaling, and that's when I started meditating. And that's when I really started trying to reconnect with myself. Now that I've taken all of my experience, 3 years of experience traveling, what do I do with it? Right? How do I become better with this experience, with this knowledge? Right? And it was really started working on myself. You know, and I started meditating and started getting close to God. You know, I started really working on my relationship with God.
And how did that help you? You know, how did you working on your relationship with God help, if at all, in your journey now of being a teacher? Like, what clarity, if any, did it offer? Like, how did that help you with where you are today as a teacher in your second year and pursuing your master's in special education? Did it help in any way at all?
Oh my goodness, listen, if a teacher does not believe in God or does not have that relationship, I don't know what you're doing. Because you need it. Like, you know, you do. For me, I do. I know I need it.
Yeah.
You know, but it definitely has helped me a lot. You know, it keeps me humble, it keeps me patient, and having a purpose. I think, like, you know, understanding your purpose, and I think that God placed me on this journey, like, you know, and I have a purpose, you know, and I know it's been written, and I'm just going through the journey, and I did not go. Yes, I did not go looking. I always said I wanted to be a teacher. I could have been a teacher much sooner, you know, but it's amazing how God truly put things out there, and, like, you know, and how I was able to actually, because I did not even know about teaching fellows. You know, I had no idea about teaching fellows. It's just that I applied for it. And it kind of brings me back to even, like, you know, my experience in Thailand, how I kept procrastinating. And it was the same thing with the process for teaching fellows. I started the process, I started answering the questions, and I was very serious about it. And I'm like, okay, send everything. And then unfortunately, it did not go through. Like, I get an email the next day and said, like, yep, application is closed. You did not send your application in. And I'm like, but I did, like, you know, and it took me a few days actually before sending, like, you know, a ticket message and saying, like, this is the issue that I am facing. And they were very understanding, and they were like, yeah, just go ahead and send it again. You know, and I could say, like, it just started there.
What's for you is for you.
What is for you, it's for you. Like, you know, and yeah, it's just, everything happens for a reason.
For a reason.
Like, you know.
How many years in between you graduating from college to your, because you've been teaching for 2 years, and now you're also in your master's. How many years in between you graduating college and your first year of teaching?
Oh, we're also talking about my first year teaching in Thailand, or?
No, because Thailand, we were teaching in Thailand, but I'm talking about, like, getting your certification here in the U.S.
Okay, so I would say 5 years.
5 years.
No, actually, 6 years.
6 years.
Yeah,
okay.
6 years.
The reason why I'm asking is because, you know, a lot of the times, right, some people might, you know, look at you and say, like, oh, well, you know, you've always known that you wanted to be a teacher since, like, a kid, and so, like, you know, things should have, like, gone, you know, rather quickly, right? You should have had a plan and etc. What's your takeaway from that, of, like, the fact that it didn't happen right away?
It didn't happen right away, right? And sometimes you do have that frustration within, right? Where it's like, you could have done this much sooner. You could have, like, you know, but I am where I am. Like, you know, I'm not where I used to be. I am where I am now. And I think for me, what I do take in my classroom is transparency, because so often, and I would say I include myself in the budget. So often, like, you know, in our community, we have a lack of resources, and a lack of mentorship. Like, you know, where we don't, the kids, they tell you they want to do something, but we don't actually sit and tell them, there's discipline that goes into this. Like, you know what I mean? This is the path to that it takes. Like, you know, and we say it and we're like, yes, baby, you can do it. You can do anything. Go ahead. You can be a president if you want to.
Which is important. It's important to speak life into our children.
I agree, but I think it's also important to give them concrete, because what end up happening to our kids are not as tough as as us. Even for us, sometimes we get very soft. We're like, I can't handle this. We get to carry one package and we're like, my goodness, I done did everything by myself. You know?
Because life be life and it be hard.
Love, right. But it's like, you know, that resiliency. Like, you know, that the kids sometimes they are missing, and that discipline, that it takes discipline. And I'm very big on discipline, and the reason why I believe once you have discipline, you have consistency, you can achieve anything. You can, and those are the very two things that are very difficult to attain. You know, discipline is waking up in the morning and saying, you know what, I don't want to do this, but I'm going to do it. Anyways, you're not relying on motivation. I think so often, you know, we get carried over. I'm not motivated. Motivation is a one-time thing. You can be motivated right now, and then 10 minutes later, a thought comes to mind. I'm not motivated anymore. But that discipline comes in where it's like, motivated or not, that's just a thought. You have to get through it. You know, and discipline and consistency. I always tell that to my kids. Like, you know, give yourself 3 months. I promise you. Like, you know what I mean? You can get it done. Invest in yourself. You have to invest in yourself. You have to understand the value of education. If you do not understand the value of education, if you don't have the confidence as a child, you know, to be like, all right, fine, like, you know, I don't know everything, but I'm learning. Like, you know, you're pushing yourself, you know, to learn.
To get there. Like, don't worry about comparing your journey to someone else.
You know, and we need to have these talks with our children because social media is educating these kids in our days. You know what I mean?
Making them think like everything will happen like this.
Graphic, and it's not. Like, you know, it's not. It's not going to happen so quick.
So the reason why I asked you about the journey and about like the fact that it took the 6 years, because I think one of the things that sometimes we may fail to realize is that God is intentional, right? And everything is working for our good. As cliche as some people might think it is, when I look at my journey, when I look at your journey, when I look at other people's journey, it's just like, literally, it all works out. And I think in our conversation that we had off camera, you mentioned that, like, look, those 2 years in Thailand, that 1 year in France, and the plethora of like stories that you like garnered during your you know, travels is what you now use in your classroom.
That's correct.
Right? So like, I think like you know, what to some may look like delay is actually not delay at all.
No, because I needed that. I needed that. And I even say, like, you know, off camera, like we were talking, had I gone to Europe prior than going to Thailand, I would not have survived. I would not have survived, you know, because what ended up happening in Thailand, I needed to mentally get stronger. You know, for me now to go and live with a family in France, a family that is not of the same race, you know, colonizers, you know, of Haiti, you know what I mean? So it was very different, but mentally I needed to learn to be alone. I needed to learn to be mentally strong, to be able to be like, okay, fine, I've been through things much more, like, you know what I mean, than this. And had it not been that, I would have definitely not survived. France, I would not have.
I mean, survived teaching as well, because I'm sure the mental like capacity that it took to survive like 2 years away from your family in a culture where you don't speak the language, you don't know anything, is the same mental capacity that it's taking for you to be a good teacher and to know how to manage your own classroom.
Right. And also, you know, to be open to learning. I think so often teachers go in and they think like, I'm the teacher and I'm going to teach you. It's different. I feel like, you know, students are teaching me. They're more of the teacher than I am. They teach me how to be a better teacher.
Wow.
You know,
That's
because you have to be open to learning. You know, if you're a teacher, like I said, you need to have the passion. You need to have, like, you know, the patience, but you also have to be open to learning because it's changing, like, you know, it's evolving. The kids are not the same, you know, and you just have to be agile. You have to be quick with it. You know, you have to learn to adjust.
That's true. I think actually that's a good point there, the willingness to learn as well. Just as adults in general, I think that's just like a key takeaway. Like in whatever environment which we go to, it doesn't matter. You have to be teachable. You have to be teachable.
Definitely.
Let me take it back a little bit. Is that the credentials to become a teacher? Get your bachelor's degree and then get your master's degree. Are there any certifications?
Definitely, you do have to get certified, especially if you want to teach a subject. So if you do want to be an ELA teacher, an English teacher, then you have to take your certificate in that, like, you know, when now you have your license to teach. ELA.
So there's like a particular exam.
That you have to take. For me, being that I am a special ed teacher, then there are much more exams that I have to take, because the thing is, when you're a special ed teacher, you're not only thinking of one subject, because you have to be able to maneuver from one subject to the next, depending on where the student is lacking, where they need more support. You know, so for example, with math, I have to go back and actually reteaching myself math. You know, because now I have to support in math,
Okay.
you know, so I also have to take like, you know, a test in math as well.
To become certified.
Not to be certified, but to actually make sure that you're able, like, you know, to support the student,
Okay.
you know.
Okay, so the certification that's required, it depends on the subject
It depends
that you're going to
on,
be teaching.
yes,
Okay.
it depends. And it also depends on, like, you know, the grade that you'll be teaching as well. Yes.
Is that something like a one and done? Or do you have to continually, like, is there continual education in
Of
that?
course, yes, you do.
Okay.
Yes, it's never an ending. Like, there's always a PD that you're taking.
What's
like,
a
you know, a
PD?
PD is like, you know, what is PD exactly? Professional development.
Okay.
You know, but it's usually like, you know, your school decides exactly when is the professional development day. And sometimes it's about, like, you know, statistics, sometimes it's about, you know, what the district is looking for, or something they're trying to implement into the classroom, or how they're going to change the curriculum. So it depends. So it's never an ending thing. Like, you know, so for example, this year, teachers have to now go back and learn how to teach students reading. You know, so now we have to take, like, you know, classes and courses, like, you know, the science of reading.
Okay.
You know, so it's never an ending
Thing. Yeah.
It's never ending.
It's like, so then it's good that she said, like, as a teacher, you need to be willing to learn. 'Cause
Completely.
it's always learning.
Yes. And you never know everything.
Yeah.
You know, I think, like, you know, the biggest thing that I used to think, like, as a teacher, you need to know everything. No. As a teacher, you need to be open to teaching, like, you know, to learning.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Like, you know, you have to be able to learn, you know, because sometimes they tell you, okay, fine, like, we're changing this. So you have to go now and do your research real quick to actually not teach. Exactly. You have to be very quick.
Okay.
You know, you have to be, you have to be able to adjust as well.
Okay. So now, you have a little girl that comes to you and they're like, Miss Cadeau, I would like to be a teacher. What advice would you give them?
First of all, I would like to know why you want to be a teacher. Like, what is your why? Because I think it's very important to know your why. Why are you doing what you want to do? Yeah. Because once you establish your why, then it's like, all right, fine. Like,
you can overcome everything.
Right,
else.
Exactly. But, you know, for a student that comes and tell me, like, you know, I want to be a teacher, is number one, like, you know, how are we going to get there? One, you know, is sitting down with them and having a path with them. What are you doing now to prepare you for tomorrow? You know, so often the kids think, like, you know, I'm going to be a kid. Like, you know, well, how is that going to serve me? No, it is going to serve you. Yeah. You know, because for me, I always tell my kids, like, I look at myself back and I'm like, yeah, a few years back I was there. Yeah. You know what I mean? It does not go away, that feeling. You know, and yeah, definitely sitting down with that kid and showing them a roadmap of how to get there. And also, what are you doing now to prepare you for tomorrow? You know, and I always tell that to kids, books should be your best friend. Like, you know, books should be your best friend. And I'm not saying, like, it has to be thick books. If, you know, if you need a lot of illustrations in the book, like, you know, as long as you are reading. You know, it's very important to do that as well. Yeah.
What advice would you give to teachers who you know, you're a teacher now and it's tough and you're just wondering, is like, how can I improve as a teacher? What can I do to make things a little easier? Or does it get easier?
It does not get easier, I think. I don't think it gets easier.
Okay.
No. It does not. I think, you know, one thing I've learned, you know, very quickly is a lot of things, like, you know, it's just protocols. Okay. You know, you have to be able to decipher between, like, you know, what's truly important, what is just protocols. You know, don't take things personally, especially, like, you know, if you're a new teacher, don't take things personally. Like, you know, these kids, they're going through a lot. Yes. You know, emotionally at home in their communities, there's a lot happening that we do not see. You know, and so when these kids are lashing out, truly don't take it personally. It's not about you. You know, and I think, like, even to add on, it's not about you as the person. I think so often teachers get very petty. You know, they get very catty, like, you know, oh, she's not doing a good job as a teacher. She's not this. I think teachers think, like, they can do better than the next person, you know, but I think, like, we're doing the best that we can. You know what I mean? Like, we're doing the best that we can as teachers, and it is not an easy job because when you have, like, you know, 30 students in a classroom, 30 different personalities that you're dealing with, you know what I mean? On top of you going through your own things that you're going through, like, you know, in life, your challenges, and it does not get easier. You know what I mean? So I think as teachers, we are doing the best that we can. And if you are teaching, I truly believe that it's because you have a passion. You know, you love these kids, and just continue being patient with them. Yeah, being patient with them. Yeah.
Nice. Are there any resources that you would recommend to, you know, a student that is in college or anyone who aspires to be a teacher? Like, are there like any books that maybe you have read? I know you mentioned the Teaching Fellows program that they can look into. Are there any resources that you would recommend that they use to kind of start setting themselves up to become teachers?
Definitely. I think, like, you know, the number one thing that you should do is start playing around, like, you know, especially if you're doing if you want to go into education, start playing around with the DOE, like, you know, going on their websites, informing yourself. I think there's so much information on that website, you know, and we take it for granted. But going on the DOE website, you know, or
by DOE, by the way,
Department of Education.
Yes.
If you go on the website, you can definitely have a lot of information, and they always have great resources as well. They're great programs. So Teaching Fellows is not the only one. They have so many other programs that they're having with the DOE, with the Department of Education as well. Sometimes even rocking up there, like, you know, and be like, hey, I'm here, like, you know, I'm kind of lost. You know, I believe if you go to the 6th or the 7th floor, I'm not sure, right on Court Street, you know, downtown Brooklyn. You go there, like, you know, and you ask for information, or you take their pamphlets, you know, so much information that you can get.
Just start educating yourself now.
Yes, because there's a lot of information out there, especially on the website.
On the website, I think it's also too, like, if you're watching this video, like, that's great, but I also think that it's important to, and I think this is general, right? Because obviously I'm not a teacher, but one of the things I realized, start networking and connecting yourself with people who are where you would like to be.
That's right.
Because you'll be surprised how many people are willing to help.
That's right. And I think it's also about getting your foot in the door.
Yes.
Like, you know what I mean? So often we're like, we want to get up there. I want to be a teacher right away.
Yeah.
And it's like, there are steps to it. Like, you know, if it means like you starting as a paraprofessional or as a substitute teacher or whatever, the idea is you need that exposure.
Yes.
Right? And once you get in there, I would say, like, you know, as a some paras, they get in there and they just sit, like, you know, and they don't do anything at all, you know. But I tell, like, you know, hello, like, if you really want to become a teacher and you're not sure, like, you know, or like you're knocking different doors and it's just not opening, really get in that classroom. Some teachers, they will even vouch for you. They see, like, you know, that you're working, that you're helping and stuff like that. They're willing to do it for you. Like, you know what I mean? Like, this is what you need to do. Like, you know, they'll talk to the principal
on your
behalf. Yes.
There's one thing,
because the thing is, like, you know, you do need a principal's approval in order to work at the school. You need to get a nomination. Like, you know, once you get nominated by one principal, whatever principal that is, like, you know, you're in the DOE, you're good. Because part of it as well, to get in the DOE, like, you know, if you're all going to be as a para or substitute, then you would need to have principals nomination to nominate you.
Yeah, I think someone said something and they were like, relationship will get you the job more than your qualification.
That's right.
So just start building.
Know.
Yeah, it's who you know and not what you know a lot of the time, which, you know, I don't know if I really agree with that, but it is how it is, and we need to know how to, like, work with the system.
That's right. That's right.
So you aspire to be a teacher, start networking, start, like she said, getting your foot in the door, and also do not be afraid to be vocal about what you want.
That's right.
Yeah. Yes. Do not be afraid to be vocal about what you want. Let people know, like, hey, I'm in this school, but I'm a paraprofessional now, but my desire is to be a full-time teacher.
That's right.
You know, and do not be afraid to make what you want.
You're there for a purpose. Truly use that. Like, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Okay.
No, I agree.
So any final words for our viewers?
Well, I'm always open, like, you know, I'm always open to help. Like, you know, I love sharing my story, especially I love being transparent. because I think like, you know, I've gone through everything really, like, you know, to help someone else, you know. So if you ever want to become a teacher, if you are more interested about the CIE program, or like, you know, the teaching fellows, I don't know how they can get in contact with me, but I'm more than happy.
You can tell them if you feel comfortable sharing your Instagram handle. You can let us know your Instagram handle. The other aspect of it as well, you guys can email the Beyond Limitations email, which is beyondlimitations2023@gmail.com, and just saying that you would like to be connected with Miss Cadeau, and I will you know, bridge that connection as well, because one of the purpose of this channel is to not only you know, have transparent conversations about different professions and what it takes to attain them and be successful in them, but the other aspect as well is to build networks and make it more accessible for individuals to be able to you know, just ask questions and connect with people who are where they would like to be. So as we end, I just want to ask you one like fun question, which is, what is a quote that you live by?
Whew. Fake it till you make it.
Hey, okay.
Hey, yeah.
Fake it till you make it, but also pray. Pray, okay. Pray that God help you along the way. Yeah.
God first.
That's so true. Yes. But Christina, thank you so much for coming. This was really fun, by the way. Yes.
It was.
I hope you guys really enjoyed this recording. Please make sure that you share, comment, like, and subscribe. When you do those things, it really helps the algorithm of getting our videos out to more individuals. And like I said, the purpose of this channel really is to educate others and empower others to really pursue their purpose and really see that, like, you know, like Christina, you can become a teacher, and the path doesn't have to be linear. You can have your own path. So thank you for watching. Thank you for joining. Enjoy the rest of your day. I'll see you guys. Bye.